Okay, so here let's finish up our discussion about this example. Okay, and as we said previously, the where the final price is depends upon how far we're shifting these curves. Okay, especially relatively speaking, how far we're shifting the demand curves versus the supply curves. Okay, so if we shifted a little bit further in this case, we find that the price could go below the initial price P1, right? So how are we going to answer this question? We're going to say that the quantity would certainly go down, okay? It will be lower, but the change in price is unclear, okay? We're supposed to say we don't know if the price would be higher or lower or even more or less the same as before. Okay, we just don't have enough information. In reality, we definitely need to estimate the demand and supply functions to be able to, figure out exactly, the price where the new price would be. Okay, and in this case, we find that the change in quantity is certain, but the change in price is uncertain, right? But on the problem set, when I give you a different example, I think you may find two more over there. You would find that in some cases, the change in price is certain and the change in quantity is uncertain. Okay, so putting together, the bottom line is between these two variables, price and quantity, we would only know one for sure and leave the other uncertain. Okay, so in this case, as we said, it's the change in quantity is clear, the change in price is unclear, but in a different case, it could be the other way. Okay, so this is the sixth step, or if you want, you can call this sixth step, or you could say using 3 steps twice. Okay, all right. So I believe here we can draw the conclusion of this this chapter. Okay, and you find that we start with the demand theory. Okay, we talk about the difference between changing quantity demanded and changing demand, and we said the key is TURLIP. Okay, if you have a solid understanding of the TURLIP, then it will be just a piece of cake. Okay, to tell the difference between these two guys. And then we talk about the supply theory. Again, it's the same thing. Okay, using the TURLIP, you can figure out the difference between change in quantity supply and the change in supply. All right. And then we put supply and demand together and talk about the market equilibrium. And we talk about the shortage and surplus. Okay. And then we go ahead and shift the curves. Okay. And sometimes we shift one curve because only one side of the market is affected. Sometimes we could shift both curves, okay, depending upon the question. All right. And the key is 3-step methods. Again, please pay attention to these details, the graphical details. Okay. All right. So that's all about this chapter. Now, the road ahead. Okay, if you are taking principles of macroeconomics, EC 201, we're gonna go ahead and talk about chapter 6. You may feel like we skipped chapter 5, but we actually finished up chapter 5. So when we talk about brain tumor surgery, when we look at that elastic versus inelastic demand, that's chapter 5. Okay, so of course there are more details over there, but for a macro economist, I think once we know inelastic demand means a very steep curve on the graph, and the elastic demand means a flat or flatter curve, that should be good enough. Okay, so we're not really going to spend more time talking about chapter 5. But if you're taking EC 202, principles of microeconomics, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about chapter 5 right after this. Okay, because when we look at the revenue, look at the profit, the elasticity matters. Okay, and we would even use some numerical examples and do some calculations to figure out that relationship. Okay, so again, after chapter 4, we sort of going towards the different ways. All right. One more thing I want to mention is, this chapter looks complicated. Okay, the graphs look messy, but once you get enough practice, I hope everybody will feel comfortable doing this. Okay, so the only way you can master this supply and demand analysis is to get more and more practice. Okay, and again, you can watch and rewatch this video. You can do the worksheets number 2 and number 3 before you watching this. Okay, and you can check out the problem set, and if you need more exercises, you can find them by the end of this chapter in the textbook. All right.